Monica is the NGP Products Senior Consultant and GINN Country Manager for Spain, with 15 years of experience in sales and marketing roles at leading FMCG companies. She focuses on strategic initiatives in the nicotine industry, particularly, of course, in the realm of reduced risk products. Monica, what's the smoking rate like in Spain? We have a lot of work there.
Yes. Indeed, smoking rate in Spain stands between 25-27%. So that actually represents around 8 million smokers who are searching for less harmful alternatives. So that represents both the challenge and of course, an opportunity. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, let's give a warm welcome to Dolakia from Dolakia Tobacco in India. Neha leads this 150-year-old company in its 5th generation, as I read. Correct. Once a traditional tobacco business, Dolakia Tobacco spotted the winds of change early on and is now a major player in developing pouches and reduced risk products. For Neha, harm reduction is front and center. And also for you, a warm-up question. Neha, have you ever considered rebranding your company? Because tobacco is very old-fashioned.
Well, that's a question I've been asked multiple times now, but as a company that has five generations of tobacco business, we don't take rebranding very lightly. I think rebranding is not just about changing your name or a logo, it's changing your purpose and values. I think that's what our portfolio is stating right now. So we're driving towards a smoke-free future and an alternative space, and that's what's driving the company ahead.
And And how much of your sales do you do with tobacco products?
It's not that significant anymore.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now please welcome Ray Hu. Ray is the H&B product director at Rico, as you can see right there. The Chinese company specializing in heat-not-burn devices and tobacco sticks with a global reach. Ray brings extensive experience from the FMCG market and the entertainment industry, skills that serve him well as he spearheads strategic initiatives in technology and design at Rico. And of course, it's an interesting question, Ray. Are there parallels between the consumer electronic industry and heat-not-burn products?
So actually, I have to say that the heat-not-burn product is not just only the devices. It's a using system we combine with the devices and consumables. So that's totally not that different with the so-called electronic gadgets. But if you just only talk about the product, the devices, it is, and it has its metric trendy, you can people like some maybe parameters upgraded by every years. But if you found this is a system, it depends on the how the consumable, that kind of the heated tobacco technology develops. So some instant it is, but if you combine this one together, it has its own metrics.
Okay, thank you. Finally, last but not least, let's invite Lucas Strasil to the stage. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you. Lucas works as an independent consultant helping companies build brands and drive innovation. He's also here as a partner of ICE nicotine pouches. Since 2018, Lucas has been deeply involved not only with nicotine pouches, but also with other nicotine-based smoking alternatives. Lucas, I learned that you live in Denmark. I think a lot of people do not know much about your country. What kind of nicotine products are trending there?
Okay, I'm not Danish, but I live in Denmark. What I think is really interesting when you look at the Scandinavian markets, especially when it comes to modern oral nicotine products, is that you see different scenarios of the future, right? Like if you look at Sweden, if you look at Denmark, completely different situations, different scenarios where the future can go. Now, when it comes down to Denmark, super fascinating market. I would say nicotine pouches, very high demand. They have been, the shift towards alternative products has happened a long time ago. Heat, burns, heat and burn, this is how you call it. Heat and not burn, thank you. And vapes, of course, and all of that is very niche comparing to neighboring countries, and the country is as much regulated as it gets. So the innovation happens in mint, where even before the flavor ban kicked in, 94% of market share was mint products. So that's what Denmark is about.
Thank you. So let's dive into the discussion. Nia, you played a key role in shaping the evolution of nicotine pouches. What technological breakthroughs have been critical in advancing both the harm reduction approach and market-specific adaptations? And where do you see untapped potential?
I think the nicotine pouch category has come a long way since its early inception. I think I've been lucky to be a part of it since a very early stage. I think there's been phenomenal formulation, technology advancement. When we started the business, one of the major issues that we had was the pouches breaking apart. So the non-woven wasn't there. So the non-woven has improved. The flavoring delivery has improved. And I think this has enabled a lot of consumer adoption. And I think with regards to the potential, we're only scratching the surface of nicotine pouches right now. There's so much potential in this category, and we have a long way to go.
Okay, thank you. Next question is to Ray. Heat-not-burn products have become a bridge between traditional tobacco and reduced risk alternatives. How do you incorporate consumer feedback into the technical development?
So let me say the ideas that we are developing this one. And first of all, we have a principle that we have to insist on is that we call it one metrics that matters is because we developed this kind of a category is one is a better harm reduction to the legal adult smoker actually. So what if we want to imitate it is more like cigarette? It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. I don't encouraging even some new juvenile or people that was never tried cigarette before. So I would still insist on that we are focused on those kind of legal adult smoker first, and after that we have to have some a spatial insights that what kind of a product portfolio present on the market that was not satisfied some consumers' demands. So after hundreds of choral and experiments we do in labs, we have a good insights that what is more better that we can work out. And after that, we're looking for some better qualities, facilities, or even some laboratory to helping us to work out this one. So after that, we now is offering a better heating devices and some so-called herbal heat sticks. And besides of that, we also have our harm reduction tobacco heat stick already, and we are trying to launch at this year.
Okay, so you said you focus on the needs of the consumers.
Yes.
Do you have to show the consumers from time to time what their needs are?
What is our? Sorry, you can repeat again.
Do you have to show the consumer what their needs are?
I'd say that if it has a different segment of these smokers, that sometimes they also only need the plain alternative experience like some herbal one, but we still have some old smoker. Sometimes they need a stronger feeling. So we have different portfolios about this kind of consumers' requests. and we design different like cooling, tobacco intensity, some aromas. We can satisfy them.
Okay, thank you. I think we're coming back to this point later. Lucas, how can manufacturers ensure their systems keep pace with the industry's rapid innovation cycles without compromising on quality or compliance?
Can you repeat that slowly once again, please?
Question again?
Yes.
How can manufacturers ensure their systems keep pace with the industry's rapid innovation cycles?
Okay. So first of all, I think that you need to accept the mindset that the limits are going to hit you anyways. First of all, because they are static, they are not static, and they move fast, right? Now the difference is how they are going to hit you. Is it going to feel like a pillow, or is it going to be a train? And that you can influence. So what is it that the manufacturers actually try to achieve? You want to have a consistent portfolio across markets, right? That is consistent and at the same time bring on novelties and innovation. Now, you can influence that by setting the benchmark. So if you, let's say, structure your portfolio according to markets where the limits and the regulations are already stricter, you can achieve that and then make minor adjustments, right, in the markets where things are changing. And at the same time, you can focus on the markets where you can experiment while keeping an eye on the markets where regulations are, I would say, fragmented, vague, or politically driven. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks to you. We're still at the consumer needs. In Southern Europe, we're seeing a swift evolution of nicotine pouches and vapes. What innovations have had the biggest impact on product acceptance there, and how do Southern European consumer preferences differ from other regions, Monica?
So it is true that these products have had a swift evolution in Southern Europe, but they're both at completely different stages. So vapes have been in the market for, let's say, 10 to 5 years, depending on the market. And I would say that in terms of innovation, closed-pod system e-cigarettes were the breakthrough in order for consumers to start adopting less harmful alternatives. But for pouches in Southern Europe, it's a completely different story because the awareness is really low. Consumers are really not aware yet of what these products are. So there's not really a massive offtake from consumers to these kind of products yet, at least in Southern Europe. And this is where, it differs from consumer behavior from northern countries, for example.
Yes, I'm coming from Germany, and their pouches are not allowed, but everybody uses it. So it's another kind of a market. Next question goes to all of you. Speaking of innovation, is there a limit to the pace of new developments beyond which consumers, or maybe regulators, might feel overwhelmed? Because we see it sometimes with the regulation that it's behind the development of new products. Who wants? Second.
Innovation hitting the limits, that was the direction, right?
Yes.
The pace. The pace. Well, I think that we passed that limits long time ago, all right? We passed that limits, and I think that, you speak about rapid innovation cycle, but what is it? What innovation is actually really relevant? Most of the, I would not say most, but plenty of the innovation that happens is not relevant. It's actually pushing the boundaries and sort in the wrong directions and solving problems that actually should be solved, but nowadays we didn't manage to solve. What happens? Well, consumers are already overwhelmed to find the products that actually cater for the needs. Regulators get poked all the time. Of course, they cannot keep the pace, but what's the consequence of that? They, of course, accelerate stricter and widespread measures on big basis. So what is the solution of that? Well, a little bit of self-regulation would not be bad, right? I would say, responsible innovation, innovation that goes in the right direction, solves real problems, and it's actually easy to regulate. And on top of that, consumer, I would say relevant innovation, consumer understanding, finding those solutions that actually solve needs. And then we can talk about clickable pouches, stretchable pouches, bioceramics, and coconut fiber. Thanks.
Yeah, it's responsibility. You wanted to add something?
I think Lucas framed it up really well. I think the companies should be more responsible, and the innovations do not come out in a vacuum. So it has to be coming out from the right places, the right need.
I think when it comes to innovation, we as an industry, we are in a very exciting moment because we are creating the industry from scratch. So we as a whole, we have a huge responsibility to promote this innovation from a responsible point of view. And obviously regulation is always going to be there, but regulation also has to be sensitive, right, balanced, in order to keep facilitating and ensuring that that innovation happens in the market. So they have to go hand to hand.
Yeah, it's a new market, and also the regulator has to find the balance between earning taxes, of course, and reflecting on the aspect of harm reduction.
So actually, to this kind of questions, I think about even some public media, even some regulation organization, they are not that quite understand the deep of the technology innovation right now. So they will try to launch some regulations that control this kind of development. But we have our responsibility to let them understand this one first. It's going to reduce the barriers between technology innovation and the regulation. So it needs what kind of things? Technologies, information, transparencies. We have to tell them what this one it is. And sometimes we call it education maybe.
Yeah, we've touched on regulation already, Ray. The industry often talks about compliance by design.
Yeah.
How does this play out in Rico's product development? And how do you safeguard your innovations against future regulatory shifts?
During the R&D process of Rico right now, we have set up a lot of some firewalls, so-called firewalls about this compliance. We have to, according to this kind of, I would say the principle, to develop our product first. And even that we have, if we disobey these kind of things, we will call this one stop it during our R&D process. And we have still need to prepare a lot of portfolios of our technology to ensure that in the coming future is that other new regulation will challenge this kind of thing. So it depends on that how our R&D departments their ability to prepare these kind of things.
And yeah, next question goes to Neha. It's very close to that one. You operate in a tricky space between innovation and strict regulations, as we already heard, of course, which everybody knows. How do you balance compliance with progress in such a dynamic environment?
I think innovation and regulation has always been challenging in this industry. And we as a company, we don't see regulations as a roadblock. I think innovations don't happen in a vacuum. And safer quality products come out when there are regulations. So innovation for us is better when it happens in a regulatory framework. Compliant product, quality product, right form of messaging and communication to the consumers is very, very critical. That makes any company more responsible. So that's how we see compliance and regulation playing out for us.
remains a difficult field, of course. Lucas, you advise companies like ICE. Is it called ICE or ICE? ICE. Because in Germany we have a train called ICE, which relies on standardized approaches to regulatory compliance across markets. Where do these strategies hit their limits? Of
the standardization. Yeah. I think that the standardization. I think that the limits you are going to hit anyways. Yeah, you're going to hit them anyways. And in order not to hit them, because of course they are dynamic and they are fast, like I said, what you should do is of course structure your portfolio in a way that the adjustments are going to be minimal across markets, and then you can innovate at the same time in the markets that give you, of course, a little bit more of space to do so.
So that means that the companies in this industry have to be always dynamic and fast moving, fast reaction.
Yeah, so I mean, if it's about that, so is it about how you structure yourself and how you deal with what kind of challenges? Can you repeat the question a little bit, please, for me?
Yeah, you answered it.
Okay. Well, listen, it's about, okay, let me give you an academical answer about the agility first, and then we take it from there. I think that, so of course, what you need to do is to set yourself with an approach that combines two things. One is, of course, being very efficient and being able to scale, right? And then have an agile R&D on top. While, on parallel, I would say, you perform what I would call predictory or predictive regulatory compliance, and you ensure the best quality control. Now, the reality is, in order also to keep compliant, that's the first thing, because that's where manufacturers are very, on their ties, that can put you out of the market. Quality is something that suffers the most. There we cut corners all the time. Even in markets that we call cluster 4, which is the like Sweden, highest maturity, more 50% of the manufacturers do not achieve normal quality standard. So that is that. You develop new flavors. And what do? You cut test it. You can all of that. ICE, for example, is somebody who does these things. Again, what about ICE? So it's a ICE. It's a brand that is growing from Iceland. So they're focusing on scalability, and they have been doing many things right. And that's definitely the focus of keeping logistics lean, integrating the aspects of sustainability, even in, for example, today's unsure geopolitical situations.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's again having a localized vertical, let's say vertical integration is easier for a manufacturer that focuses on less markets at the beginning and on doing things right to build scale.
And do people in these companies do need a special kind of mindset?
Mindset
for being very flexible in work, in reacting.
Yes. If you ask me about the mindset, so it comes to the fact about what innovation are you actually doing. Do less, focus on what is relevant, focus on consumer needs and understanding what the consumer needs are, which, by the way, you cannot monitor 30 markets and then react based on a specific market. You need to understand what are the basic needs of the consumers, which, by the way, are shifting. So do less, focus on what is relevant, and keep the quality on a level where you can build brand loyalty. And if you still have slack, then you can focus on innovation.
In general, is a regulation a roadblock or a catalyst for innovation in the nicotine industry?
Okay, I answer first. I thought this is a very good question, because last week I read a report that was written by Philip Morris. It called Innovation Under Pressure. Innovation Under Pressure. Yeah, and we can see that in the past maybe several decades, new technologies, when they give birth, they had a lot of challenge by public media, even some public governments, like internet, like smartphone, like live streams, or even the unmanned driving. Yes, a lot of challenges we ask them when these new technologies come out, even some they have related to some ethic question maybe. Yeah, even some the AI technologies. So it depends on how this we talked about before, how this kind of medias and the regulations they understand what this one good or not. We have to ensure that they are well related when the this kind of technology innovation development process. And we have to ensure that this kind of innovation is going to beneficial most of the target audience first. Yes, like me, like the heated tobacco, we are trying to benefit those heated, the combustible cigarettes user. Yes, so we are trying to how to say that we're trying to make these smokers 95 more than 95% less harm. Yeah, less harm first. So in the past 70 years, we can see that even the tobacco industry they are spend a lot of efforts on reducing this kind of thing, like the filter tips goes out, like the how to say that the tobacco thread to reduce the tar. But now the technology reaching heated tobacco now the process. So now I have discussed with this one with some the JTI people. He tell me that okay, now the public media is not that quite understand why we're going to do that. It is still the particle, but we have to tell them we have to do a lot of recon technology. The recon technology is to not and is to ensure that it's not release those kind of harmful chemical substance under the temperature 350 Celsius. So it has a lot of laboratory data to already prove this kind of things. And but some regulation they also have to do this kind of thing is to prevent there's some innovation bias. So in my personal opinions, that regulation spurs the deep of the technology innovation during this kind of industry.
Something to add? Monica.
I think it's pretty much the same message and that I passed on earlier. And I think everyone here is in the same boat when it comes to the regulation and innovation. Regulation is not a bad thing per se in our industry. We all operate in a highly regulated industry. But we also know what happens where regulation is extreme, like illicit trade, for example, is one of the first consequences. So I would say that regulation, yes, to set up standards in the industry and protect both consumers and actually the whole value chain, but a balanced regulation.
Okay, so you said highly regulated, but not over-regulated.
Well, we operate in a highly regulated industry, but we need to advocate for balanced regulation. That's why we're here, right? So.
You wanted to add something?
Absolutely agree. Thoughtful regulation.
We see regulation as a catalyst for growth. It brings in a lot of direction in the innovation, and more sustained long-term innovation comes out when there's regulation in place. If you talk about my country, India, at the moment, nicotine pouches are highly regulated. So the kind of innovation that you're going to see in the next 1 to 2 years in the oral pouch space is tremendous. And that's something that we wouldn't have seen so far yet. So we believe as a company that regulations are very important and they are a big catalyst for innovation and growth.
Okay, so that's a relatively positive point of view of all of you. Coming back to Monica, Europe has the EU's TPD. Now it's version 2 and we are facing version 3 maybe in 2027. And TPD is a unified regulatory framework, yet implementation varies widely between countries. How does this affect the development and marketing of pouches and vapes, and maybe also heat-not-burn products, especially in your region?
TPD.
TPD.
We all love TPD. Well, TPD implementation varies dramatically across all European markets. And nowadays, I think there are like a lot of questions that still remain unanswered. Like, for example, will the TPD set up a maximum percentage of nicotine per pouch? Will TPD standardize packaging? Will the 120 euros per kilogram tax will be implemented? So, a lot of questions that are still an incognita, and this is actually causing a lot of uncertainty in the markets, and this is ultimately impacting manufacturers who are willing and ready to enter the market, but they are holding into it because all the uncertainty that there is in the market. And on the other hand, also consumers that remain unaware of the existence of less harmful alternatives. So this is actually one of the core initiatives and the core principles of GINN. We're going to start engaging in Brussels with the support of our colleague Jacobo. So he's not there anymore. So we're going to start talking with regulators and policymakers in order to explain to them what nicotine pouches are, what nicotine pouches aren't, and how a balanced regulation framework looks like.
And isn't it true that pouches and e-cigarettes are gaining traction in Southern Europe? Is Spain a pioneer in this sector? I don't think so.
Oh, not at all. Yes, these products are gaining traction, but the awareness of nicotine pouches category still remains very, very low. And this is due to government not embracing a harm reduction approach. Probably a lot of smokers that they don't want to quit smoking. But yeah, overall there is a very lack of awareness of this category. So we as an industry, we really need to conduct a massive, massive work on communication and education at all levels, involving the whole value chain. So from manufacturers, distributors, regulators, doctors, and of course consumers, in order for them to understand what are nicotine pouches, how to use nicotine pouches. And I think that we also have a responsibility to position this category in a very responsible way. So stay away from, recreational or trendy products and really position this category as a product that delivers nicotine and eventually helps smokers to reduce the consumer of nicotine. So education and information is crucial at this point in time.
Okay. Let me broaden that question and pass it to Ray. How do regional consumption habits shape the development of alternative nicotine products, especially in markets still dominated by traditional tobacco?
Okay, we can notice that the heated tobacco has already developed for 10 years. Therefore, 10 years, during the past 10 years, we can notice that the cigarette or the tobacco control regulation that was effective. We can see that the consumption of the tobacco industry is going down every year. It means that the so-called next generation product, this kind of industry is a good alternative to this one. But we still found very few players to join this kind of things. It is hard to do regional consumption habits. So if you just only want to localize everything, it means that you have to set up your facilities every regions to understand every region's consumers' habits. So, but right now the player still very few. I have to say that still very few. So it possible that we want some big data analysis can tell our R&D or we this kind of players what the regional habit it is, like different cooling, different tobacco intensity, what kind of aromas they prefers. Then we can try to localize everything just everywhere. But right now, I think it's hard to say this kind of things. So we like our R&D and our facilities is only now can produce maybe for some big area habits. It's not details like that we can localize to every, even some small countries, small cities habits. So we hope that in the coming 1 decade or 2 decades, there's a new players to join this kind of industry, and they can understand what this one it is. But right now it is hard, I have to say.
Okay. So, Mia, maybe you can tell us something about the role of the emerging markets, because you're international, you distribute to every market. What difference do you observe in acceptance and demand between developed markets and emerging markets?
Well, I think emerging markets are going to be very, very important for harm reduction. I'll give you one small example. India, as a country, we have about 250 million smokers tobacco users, but not a single alternative present. So, we look at Africa. Africa has predominant smokers tobacco consumption as well. The biggest challenge that we see is the education. As Monica just mentioned, people are not aware. So the awareness and education piece is going to play a significant role in emerging markets. We see there's a lot of potential, and the need for harm reduction is not in developed nations, it's in the developing nations, it's in the LMICs. That's where harm reduction reduces production is going to be the most crucial and most important product that consumer can have. So we see emerging markets, we are currently operating in a lot of emerging markets, and that's one of our key areas. We go to markets where nobody is present, and we open that door. We try and educate consumers there, we try and get some awareness out there. There's a massive potential, and there's a massive need of an hour to reduce this profiles there.
So, reflecting on your answers so far, are global standards for alternative nicotine products realistic, or will the industry's future remain shaped by regional fragmentation?
I have the feeling that, global standards and unified standards are aspirational, right? But they are very, very unlikely in the short and maybe in the long term. Because the markets are too fragmented, it's very difficult to get alignment, and the different, I would say, regulatory philosophies are extremely different. It goes from slow acceptance and support of harm reduction towards outright bans. Now, but still what gives me hope, I spoke yesterday with the GINN guys, GINN, and actually these guys are planning to do a lot of support and work, especially when it comes down to research supporting best cases. And actually, some people up there should read these cases, and we should make sure that actually the real science and also this conversation help us all in the industry in bringing the conversation forward. So big shout to the GINN guys, and I genuinely believe that if there is somebody who can pull this off, it's them.
What we're doing with GINN right now, it's the need of now. I think the global standards is aspirational, like I said, but it's also something that we should attend. That's going to be great for harm reduction. It's going to be great for the category. And that being said, a lot of science, a lot of data has to be presented, has to be engagement with regulators, because they're not informed. They don't know. They don't know anything. They have to be educated as well. So I think a global standard is aspirational, but it's achievable.
You want to add something?
Okay. For me, I thought it can do it to some extent. Now in heated tobacco industry, the big tobacco heads, they have already. I have some data, like like BMI and BAT, they have already formed up some the harm reduction research ally to cover more than 40 countries, and to sharing this kind of data to set up those kind of the situation of regulation. So, and even they have some the industry standard or some principle like ISO or the TS126, the International Barista Heated Tobacco Harm Reduction Evaluation Framework. So I thought in this kind of category, some big tobacco head or they have already set up, but you know that even some highly controlled countries, they still not follow this kind of thing because they not just only want alternative, they want people quit. So I thought in the coming futures, we have there's some situations that even some core principle there will be some every place they have the following, but in some countries they still have their expression of some highly regulations.
Okay, speaking of market fragmentation, we can't ignore the consumer of nicotine products, of course. Are users well enough informed? We already mentioned it a little bit about the difference between traditional tobacco and novel products. What more does the industry need to do, Monica?
Hello? I think that we go back to the same topic. There is a very low awareness of nicotine pouches, especially among the consumers. And especially in Spain, I'm talking about Spain now, like consumers have been mistreated completely, from media campaigns orchestrated by NGOs, the public health authorities, ignoring the harm reduction alternatives. So there is a need of increased all this education at all levels, and only when we educate and we inform this category and consumers will start taking on nicotine pouches.
Okay. Yeah, and it's all about harm reduction. It's a core driver of your work, I think. How do you convince skeptics, whether consumers or regulators?
Well, we function in an industry where skepticism is always going to be there. And we need to, consumer trust is important. And consumer trust comes in with consumer education, awareness. And the regulators look at this category on science, on data. So I think there has to be engagement coming in with the regulators based on concrete scientific data. That's what they rely on. And consumers, they need to know the benefits. They need to be educated. So company who can navigate both of these together is going to be leading the category. It's going to be driving the category ahead. I believe. So, it's about time.
It's also concerning your business, Ray. Heat-not-burn products aim to appeal to traditional smokers. How do you address the challenge that made consumers confuse less harmful with safe?
Well, it's a challenging question. So I have to say that what if you want to say it's 100% safe? If you want 100% safe, the best way is going to quit, right? like that. What if you want to avoid some cars? Then the best way is to stay at home and not driving. So I have to say that we are beneficial from some new technologies, and I hope some consumer can understand it is not that perfect at present, but we believe that it can be more better in the coming future. So we have some several hundreds years about addiction products. Even like the humankind, they need something to release. Yeah, to release. So even that, like cigarettes, like liquors, like video games, or even like people swiping TikTok. Yeah, people swiping TikTok. Like people need something to get addicted. Yeah. So I have to say that even some these tobacco industry players in the past 50 years, so we are trying to reduce the harmful of this kind of categories, like these kind of things. We are trying to make these kind of things zero harmful, but we know that this is not possible, but we are trying to make at least 99% or 99.9%. This is the purpose that we are chasing. Yeah, I said this is not a easy work, so it needs maybe several generation people to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, Lucas, as you live in Scandinavia now, given the success of snus in Sweden, do you think nicotine pouches would be widely embraced as a smoking cessation aid? And why do you think, sorry, why do you think some countries like Germany struggle to adapt them?
Okay, so let's take the case of Sweden for a second. So Sweden has probably, we know Sweden has the lowest incident rate, let's say, what is it, five something, yeah, since 20, I would say 23. If we go backwards, around, I guess, early 2000s, maybe 2004 and 5 was the moment where basically the use of snus and nicotine pouches, not nicotine pouches, but snus overweighted the number of daily smokers in Sweden. And that's a product that basically, let's say, traditional snus was widespread even before tobacco was starting to decline, and that all started at the beginning of the 19th century. So what facilitated the shift is definitely a cultural, has of course a cultural background. But Sweden is not an immaculate case. You know, we look at it as something that we should example for. So, for example, don't forget we're speaking a lot about harm reduction, but don't forget that Sweden is a hard lifestyle-driven category in nicotine pouches. So it's a category where barriers are low. You buy a white label product, is very easy to enter and plot whatever design that consumers, of course, are attracted by is going to work. So at the end, barriers are low. It's very easy to access as a product. It's very easy to misuse. So now Germany, of course, when you see these things, I mean, Germany has seen the decline now for years of traditional tobacco, and they hope that the generation, of course, it's gonna, you know, that it's gonna die with the oldest generation. And now, of course, they are very cautious before introducing something that has in its own DNA the evil that they have been battling for decades. So they are cautious, of course. And I think that, of course, there is also an association thing. They very simply associated everything that has nicotine content as smoking. And that is a very old school and old-fashioned thinking, but it's actually today's reality, in my opinion.
Let's come over to more technological questions. Ray, how will the next generation of heat-not-burn products differ from today's? And one more question interesting myself, especially, are you using AI in your development process?
Okay, I have to explain that the HMB next generation it is hard to overcome because that we have the researchers of this industry, they has already reached there's a bottleneck about innovation about this kind of category because we are trying to overcome some limits about physical and chemicals, limited like how to vape the nicotine at the lower temperatures. This one has already reached a limit. So we are still trying to looking for a new substance to make heated tobacco more less harmful and a better feeling. So it takes more 5 or 10 years to overcome. This one is not easy because we are trying to overcome physical and chemical limits. And you talk about like AI, it depends on what kind of level of the AI. So like if the a ChatGPT or the so-called DeepSeek, this kind of response according to every user, this one is not realistic right now because we are a industry of big productions. But we can use some AI technology on some productions for analyze of people who what kind of flavor or the local consumption habits they need. Yeah, this one we can use these technologies and to improve the proficiencies and in the facilities or some how to say that there's some regional habits.
Okay, thank you. And as we learned yesterday, you will present some more innovative products in the near future. We're eager about it. Question goes to Lucas. In your role as a consultant for the industry, what technological advancements will most shape the global nicotine industry in the coming years, in your opinion?
Okay, so according to trends that we have monitored, okay, let me put it in 5 points. There is definitely going to be one trend that is about nicotine and beyond nicotine, and that is encompassing the whole convergence of the wellness within the wellness category to and the wellness trends. The second one is going to be about flavor and multisensory, so new flavors and multisensory experiences. One which is very, very important is, of course, overcoming the flavor ban and what innovation you can do in dance-free guidelines. The third one is going to be digital and personalized consumption, which is, of course, temperature control, regulation control, data tracking, and integration with holistic well-being. The fourth one is going to be, of course, sustainability biodegradable products, a topic that is shamefully disregarded and where we are lagging 10 years and decades behind with solutions that we should have. And by the way, the solutions are not necessarily the problem. Nobody cracked the incentives of consumer adoption. And that, I think, it's the main point in that. And 5, it's going to be what we discussed, regulatory-driven innovation. And shifting, basically, well, reframing the products probably towards new regulation. And that is the last thing, most important thing, shifting the public discourse from harm reduction into cognitive enhancement, stress relief, and all that aspect. I think that's all I have.
On the point. More general question to me, where do you see the nicotine industry maybe in 5 or 10 years?
Can you hear me? Yeah. That's a very interesting question. Looking at the current trajectory of how vapes, heat-not-burn, on modern oral is doing, I was looking at the recent data. Vapes has been around for about 20 years now. So there are about 100 million consumers with $14 billion total revenue for the entire industry. Heat-not-burn is starting up with 20-30 million consumers at the moment globally and about $10 billion market. When we look at pouches is a $6 billion market at the moment with only 8.5 consumers. So we believe there's a massive potential in the oral pouch segment because it's convenient, easy to use, safer alternative, very comparable to your NRT products as well. So I think the future is smoke-free. It can be H&B, it can be vape, it can be oral pouches. Because I'm a pouch producer, I want pouches to go big. But we think the future is smoke-free and 15 alternatives on the table for the next 5-10 years.
Okay, thank you. Monica, are there trends that will globally influence the future of pouches and vapes? what role do small, agile companies play in challenging the industry giants? Because there's a difficult field between them, I think.
Yes. So we are shaping the industry, and we are creating the industry from scratch. And despite other industries such as tobacco or vapes, I think nicotine pouches industry is not that much driven by the big players. So I think there is a big opportunity for small and agile companies to really drive with innovation. And this is where also GINN plays a very important role, because we're going to be there supporting and raising the voice on behalf of all these small, medium, big companies, all of them, and broaden their perspectives. So definitely, I think in this case, even more than ever, small companies play a crucial role in the industry. Yeah.
Okay, and the final question, please keep it brief. Will the nicotine industry's future be driven more by technological innovation or by society and regulatory change? Maybe Lucas to start?
Yeah, I think that, listen, technological innovation will continue to push the boundaries, but I think that it's going to be regulations that are going to set the pace. But nevertheless, I have witnessed in my humble experience and in many industries that the best innovation also happens within constraints, because you have sense of urgency, better focus, and ideas are more valuable than throwing resources in a completely unregulated environment.
Yeah, the same as this campusing, but my principle is that we are not trying to attract more people who is going to use nicotine. Yeah, this is my principle. We are trying to let those kind of the legal adult smoker to get less harmful lifestyles. So it depends on what kind of segment we focus on, and we still want those kind of old smokers to get a less harmful lifestyle. So at this kind of segment, we hope that the heated tobacco technology innovation that was spend more money or even some human resources to focus this one on that. I still hope that even that some big tobacco head can open resources or can open their patent for new player to enter this kind of industries, and to make this one is more beneficial.
Yeah.
I think we operate in a very unique industry. It's always fun navigating this industry. I think the future is going to be decided by all three together, because they all work together. Without regulations, you don't have any technological innovations. Without regulations, you don't have societal acceptance. So we are not trying to sell pouches to non-users of nicotine, because that's us taking our responsibility. But we think all three in combination will drive the future of the nicotine industry.
In my case, I am representation of GINN. I believe that unfortunately it's going to be regulation. We still operate in a highly regulated industry, and we can't escape from that. So regulation will lead.
It's a pity, and under the aspects of harm reduction, of course, I think it's the wrong way. Yeah. Okay, thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure to have you here on the stage. I think they will be available for questions, individual questions, maybe. Thank you to all of you. It was a pleasure to have you here, and enjoy the next course. See you next year.